Hey you witches, it's Taya and Luna. Today I wanted to do something a little bit fun. So right now I actually have my altar, or my camera set up on my altar, which is beside my bed, obviously, right? I'm sitting in my bedroom. And this has sort of been my sacred space for the last year and a bit. I talked about in another video how I had set up, I decided I really needed some sacred space. So I set it up in my bedroom, and it doesn't really work for me anymore. At the time, my husband was working out of town, so in the evenings I could just come in and do some work, do some meditating, do some shadow work, whatever, before I went to bed. But what I'm finding now is that with him home, right, he's in here sleeping, I can't really use the space. I can use it during the day, but I'm more of an evening kind of girl, so I'm finding I'm not using this space as much as I would really like to. So I have cleared out a space in my office where I'm going to be moving my altar, so it'll be a much bigger space and it will be private. I can go in, close the door, and do my work. So that's exciting. But that means I gotta sort of move everything around, and I have a secret to confess. I am an absolute book addict, and I have spent the last year buying books that I love. I love them all. I love every single one. They're like my babies. But I don't need to move all of them down into my new workspace. A lot of them are great reference books or books that I've read through and I'm like, this was great, but I'm done with it now. So I thought maybe you guys would like to sit with me today while I sort through all of my witchy books from the last year. I'll try to make it short. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on every book. Some of them I've done book reviews on. Some of them I plan to do book reviews on. So it's not really a review video, but I just thought you guys might be interested to see what I've been reading for the past year and a half. All right. So, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. I've got like a pile down here and another pile, like two piles beside my workspace. I have a lot of books. All right, so let's start here with some of my very highly used books. I've got The Devil's Dozen by Gemma Gary. Love, love, love this book. There's a couple things out of here that I work with regularly, so I'm going to put this, I don't know, where am I going to organize my books? Oh, how about just right in front of me? So I am going to put that in my to keep pile. Folk Witchcraft, which I also intend to do a book review on. Folk Witchcraft, A Guide to Lore, Land, and the Familiar Spirit for the Solitary Practitioner by Roger J. Horn. Phenomenal little book. Obviously my go-to, The Crooked Path by Calden. These are all books that I am currently working in that I use. We have got Besom, Sang, and Sword by A Guide to Traditional Witchcraft, The Sixfold Path and the Hidden Landscape by Christopher Orapello and Tara Love Maguire. This one I am going to put into my bookshelf. There was some good information. I've taken it. I work with it regularly, but it's actually been put into my Book of Shadows now. So I'm going to put this one up over there, and that will be my transfer to bookshelf. Nigel Pearson, Treading the Mill, Workings in Traditional Witchcraft. You can see I've got some bookmarks. There's some things in here that I'm using at the moment, so I'm going to put that down. Weave the Liminal by Laura Tempest Zakroff. This one I will be doing a book review on 100% for sure. Living Modern Traditional Witchcraft. This will be in my working with pile. The Witch's Herbal Apothecary. Rituals and recipes for a year of earth magic and sacred medicine making. You know what, guys? It's a beautiful book. I have a really hard time getting into it. I haven't found it to be entirely up my alley, which is disappointing because it's a beautiful book. So that's going to go to the bookshelf. Witchcraft for Families by Margie MacArthur. This is an old one. This is from back when I started practicing. I don't practice Wicca, but this is basically, it goes through all the Sabbats and gives you ideas on what you can do with your family, family rituals, family recipes, family crafts and activities. So I use this one when I'm planning for my Sabbats quite regularly. So that will go to my altar. Nigel Pearson again. This one is Walking the Tides, Seasonal Magical Rhythms and Lore. I love this book. I love the idea of this book. It's very British, so it doesn't necessarily apply quite so much with that. He does a breakdown every season, every kind of month of the season, and he goes through the flora and the fauna that you're going to see at that time, that are coming out, that you're working with. It's absolutely an amazing book, but I find I don't use it a lot because a lot of it isn't really applicable to where I live. So, up in Canada. I'm going to put that one on my bookshelf. I have got the Renaissance Tarot. This is my tarot deck. Legends of the past now reveal the future. This is actually my tarot deck, so I need that. I'll be honest, I love tarot. I don't read it myself. I have to use the book. I have to use the guide. That's just where I'm at. Scottish Herbs and Fairy Lore by Ellen Everett Hopman. Love, love, love this book. I have Scottish ancestry, so I work with that a lot in my practice, and she talks about the Wheel of the Year, but she does it from a Scottish perspective. Love this book. Spells, Charms, Talismans, and Amulets. A Complete Guide to Magical Enchantment. Again, this is an oldie. I don't know if this is still in print. By Pamela Ball. I use this one quite a bit. This one is a bit of a grimoire spell book. This one and another one I have that we'll get to. These are definitely ones I work with. Reading the Leaves. An Intuitive Guide to the Ancient Art of Modern Magic of Tea Leaf Divination by Sandra Mariah Wright and Leanne Marama. Cool book. I want to get into tea leaf reading, so definitely one I'm going to leave in my working pile. I haven't got to it yet, but it's pretty cool book. I mean, I've read it, but I haven't got to actually reading tea leaves yet, so when I get to it, that will be a helpful one to have on hand. A Witch's Natural History by Giles Watson. I adore this book. It really is just talking about, different... Each chapter is like an ode to a different animal or creature or plant or something in the natural world. And he relates it back to witchcraft and history, and it's fascinating. But it's not really a working book. It's more just a book of interest. Think of it like almost like a book of poetry, but about natural history. So interesting book, but I am going to put it over to my bookshelf. All right, we have got Energy Essentials for Witches and Spellcasters. Cute little book. It's by Maya Om. I've actually worked through this whole book, so I don't reference it so much because most of that information that I use has already been transferred into my Book of Shadows. Practical Sigil Magic, Creating Personal Symbols for Success by Frater UD. I'm torn on whether I should keep this one or if I should put it onto my bookshelf. I do have some sigil work coming up, so I'm going to leave it on my bookshelf. Or on my working pile. My working pile is probably going to get like higher than my head here. All right, Witch. Unleashed, Untamed, Unapologetic by Lisa Lister. Great read. It definitely makes you feel like, oh, I gotta work. I gotta use my witchcraft. I've kind of worked through it and everything's been transferred to my Book of Shadows, so I'm gonna put that one on my bookshelf. Traditional Witchcraft, A Cornish Book of Ways by Gemma Gary. I love Gemma Gary. And again, I have worked through this book, so I'm gonna put that one on my bookshelf. Sigil Witchery by Laura Tempest Zakharoff. I adore this book. And again, I've got some sigil work coming up, so I am going to put this one on my working pile. It's A Witch's Guide to Crafting Magic Symbols. Very cool. Laura Tempest Zakharoff, she's got some great stuff. Scottish Witchcraft, A Complete Guide to Authentic Folklore, Spells, and Magical Tools by Barbara Michael John Free. Didn't really connect with this one. It's going on to my bookshelf. To Walk a Pagan Path, Practical Spirituality for Every Day by Alaric Albertson. Very interesting book. I've probably pulled from it what I need. I've got a page bookmarked. Oh, a page on familiar spirits. Interesting. Now I want to work with this again. I don't know where to put this one. I think I am going to put it onto my bookshelf for another day. The Book of Crystal Spells, Magical Uses for Stones, Crystals, Minerals, and Even Sand by Ember Grant. I had taken a Crystals and Gemstones course, and this was the book that they recommended. Excellent book. I think I've probably again, I've probably pulled everything I need from it. So I'm going to put it back into my reference library. And my book on the runes. It came with a rune set by Hork Svensson. I do use this quite often. Just when I'm trying to find a rune that goes for what I'm trying to create a bind rune, I will use that book. I'll reference it quite often. Deborah Blake, Everyday Witchcraft, Making Time for Spirit in a Too Busy World by, Deborah Blake. Excellent book. Read it, digested it, going on the bookshelf. Lieber Knox, A Traditional Witch's Grammary by Michael Howard. Very interesting book. Very academic. Very, but again, it's one I use when it comes time to planning for the different tides and seasons. He's got some different sorts of things in here, so I am going to keep this one in my working books. Oh, girlfriends, we're still not done. I have so much to go through. So that's everything that was beside. Now I've still got a pile of books from behind and under my side table. All right, I've got a few books here on folklore. So The Lore of Scotland, A Guide to Scottish Legends, by Westwood and Kingshill. Again, this is, there's some really great, I haven't read the whole book. I'm not going to keep it in my working library. It's going to go into my reference library for when I'm looking for something to read. The Anthology of Scottish Folk Tales. There's a couple in here I want to read to you guys for a Folklore Friday. It's, again, it was a little more easy to digest than the big book with the tiny type. This one's more, it's almost like a storybook for grown-ups. So I love it. It's hardcover with this little bookmark. So I'm going to put it in my reference library because I'm not working right when I'm in, when I've got my compass set. That's not a book I would be grabbing. Same thing with these. Again, I've got lots of stories I want to read to you guys. These are, it's a series of children's Scottish folk tales. So an illustrated treasury of Scottish castle legends. This is a really good story in it. I'm going to read to you guys. We've got an illustrated treasury of Scottish mythical creatures. Again, it's got a really good one in it. And an illustrated treasury of Scottish folk and fairy tales. And there's probably 2 or 3 in here that I'd like to read to you guys for Folklore Friday. These are kids' books, but they're beautifully illustrated. And I find sometimes when you're reading the folklore, when you're reading the children's books, it gets really interesting. Things are a little more colorful. They're a little quicker to read. So I do tend to start with the children's stories and then I search them out in the more adult sort of folklore and mythology books. So yeah, there's some cool stories in there I'm going to read to you guys. All right. Oh, we're getting down there. I have got so many books. All right. We have got By Moonlight and Spirit Flight, The Praxis of the Otherworldly Journey to the Witch's Sabbath by Michael Howard. Again, very academic. I'll be honest, I haven't read it yet. I think it's really interesting. It'll be about the journey to the Witch's Sabbath. I find Michael Howard's a bit of a difficult read. Again, he's just really academic. So I am going to put that into my reference library. One day I'll get to it, but not really a working book. 6 Ways, Approaches and Entries for Practical Magic by Aidan Wachter. That's a keeper. That goes down into my working space. The Charmer's Psalter by Gemma Gary. This is one that I have not yet had a chance to work with, but I'm really excited about. It's really about using Psalms from the Bible. So like I talked about in my other video about my journey through witchcraft, I think the Catholicism is coming around again. So I'm going to put that in my working books. Bones, Shells, and Curios, a contemporary method for casting the bones, written and illustrated by Michelle Jackson. Cool book. Again, that's something I'm trying to work with is how to throw bones. I'm learning. It's going in my pile. Real Alchemy, a primer of practical alchemy by Robert Allen Bartlett. I read through it. I'll be honest, I'm not much of an alchemist, but it's interesting. Going in my reference books. Oh, the piles are getting high. Witch, Warlock, and Magician. Historical Sketches of Magic and Witchcraft in England and Scotland. By W.H. Davenport Adams with additional material by T. Thorne Coyle. I haven't read this one yet. I will. I'm, every once in a while I binge on Scottish witchcraft stuff, so that will be one of my next ones, but it's going on my reference shelf. Beneficium, I think. Beneficium, Magic, Witchcraft, and the Poison Path. Second revised edition by Daniel A. Schulk. Very interesting read. Again, I'm putting that one on my reference shelf. Fairy Witchcraft, Forbidden Mysteries of Fairy Witchcraft by Storm Fairy Wolf. Cool book. I'm having a hard time getting into it. I'm not sure if it's just because it's not entirely my path, or maybe it's just written a little more academically than I'm used to. So I'm definitely going to put it onto my reference shelf, but that's one I'll definitely come back to and read again. The Visions of Isabel Gowdy, Magic, Witchcraft, and Dark Shamanism in 17th Century Scotland by Emma Wilby. Love this book. I haven't finished reading it. It's a highly academic text, but it's got just fascinating information about Isabel Gowdy and about the time in which she lived and what her life was like for people back then. So I'm going to put this one into my reference library. It's not one that I reference in my working a lot. Scottish Witches and Warlocks by Michael Howard. Again, we're back with Michael Howard. This one was a really interesting read, and I think because, Scottish Witches and Warlocks is right up my alley. That is exactly what I'm interested in. And yeah, I've read this whole book, and I'm going to put that one in my reference library. What else do we have? Oh, Secrets of the Supernatural. This one just came out with National Geographic. Don't waste your money. It's kind of it's like a coffee table sort of edition. It's kind of interesting. I don't know, but I paid $18, $17.99 for this in Canada. I'm not sure it was worth the $18. I could have bought a whole book for that. So that's definitely one I'll put in my reference materials. Ogham, The Celtic Oracle of the Trees by Paul Rees Montfort. Interesting. Now, I would love to work with the Ogham. I haven't really gotten into it super much. I'm going to put this into my reference library, but I definitely would come back to this again. It's definitely one that I would work with. Jailbreaking the Goddess, A Radical Revisioning of Feminist Spirituality by Lasara Firefox Allen. Great book, especially if you're like me, and I'm a little uncomfortable with the whole triple goddess, maiden, mother, crone. I feel like I am so much more than just my womb. I am so much more than just my reproductive organs. And I find the whole maiden, mother, crone, well, I identify with those stereotypes, those archetypes, if you will. I have a hard time with it. I'm 43 years old. I'm past my childbearing years. I am not a mother really anymore. My children are 10 and 21, or 11 and 21 now. But I'm not a crone, right? I'm not an elderly wise woman. So where do I fit in, right? Again, so I really got into this idea of a fivefold goddess, which I will do a video on that, definitely on the fivefold goddess. Part of which I would take from Jailbreaking the Goddess, part of it from Nigel Pearson, actually, and his Treading the Mill. Has some great information. What's over here? Ooh, this is an oldie, Scrying for Beginners. It has got some really interesting information in it. He's got some very interesting stuff about setting up your ritual space. So it's not, that part's not really about the scrying part, but really interesting information in this one. I'm going to put it into my reference section because I'm not working with it currently. What else do I have? The Encyclopedia of Witchcraft, the complete A to Z for the entire magical world by Judica Isles. Interesting book. I use this one when I'm planning for the Sabbats. I am going to put it into my reference library because it's a big honking book and I'm not going to have room. I don't want everything to be taken over by books. The Element Encyclopedia, 5,000 Spells. Again, this is a good reference book. It's not one I would probably pull out while I'm working. I'm missing a book. I'm missing a book. Oh no, it's like my favorite book and I don't know where it is. Oh, you know what? It's downstairs. I was photocopying out of it. Oh, I wanted to share that one with you. Oh, look at that. I've got dog toys on me. All right, and finally I've got Book of Shadows by Phyllis Curate. This is an oldie but a goodie. I love this book. It was really, it's written like a novel, but it's really about her journey to witchcraft. She's Wiccan. She's done quite a bit. You can look her up online. She's got another book that came out after this one, and she has like online courses and all kinds of stuff. So Phyllis Curott, Wiccan High Priestess, Book of Shadows, a modern woman's journey into the wisdom of witchcraft and the magic of the goddess. So that's an oldie. So there we go. I've definitely narrowed it down. Those are all the books that are going to the reference pile. Those are all the books that are going to come with me. Plus, I have another one called The Goodly Spell Book that I will be taking with me down to my new reference area as well. So thanks for sitting with me while I sorted these books and just went through the pile. It just needed to be done, and I thought you guys might like to see what I've been reading for the last year and a half. All right, mwah! Thanks so much. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button if you like what I've got to share, and we'll hopefully see you again in another video. See ya.